this specific story is going to color in that the road is not as clear-cut as a lot of people might think it is. Hi guys, welcome back to Yanga today. My name is Yanga if you are seeing my face for the first time, and in this video I am going to be chatting to you guys about my CTA journey and how that specific journey looked like for me to be able to pass on my first attempt. The reason I wanted to make this video is because of the reality that most of the times we hear of people's success stories, but we are rarely ever privy to what that journey looked like. And for me, the CTA journey is one of the miraculous chapters in my life where even when I think about it, I just think about how much of a miracle it was for me to make it past that specific finish line. So I don't think this is going to be a conventional story in terms of how I eventually passed, but I really do hope that whoever you are watching on the other side, you are, inspired and you take heart in whatever journey you are on. It may not be a CTA journey, but maybe there's something that you are striving to achieve, because this specific story is going to color in that the road is not as clear-cut as a lot of people might think it is. So I don't want to make this video too long, but at the same time, I don't want to skip too much detail. But for context, I completed my CTA via UNISA, and I was also doing it full-time, which contributes quite a lot to your odds of you being successful, because that's the only thing I was doing. I wasn't doing my articles part-time. And I was back home in East London. I'm originally from Mthatha. The reason I'm mentioning this is because I think it's also an important part of the story, because I was able to really just focus on my studies. I didn't have any distractions. I was staying by myself in that specific apartment in East London. So all I had to do was study. And I feel as though that gave me an incredible shot at studying. Now, like anyone, we all have different strengths. And for me, during that specific year, I would say that my strength was mostly tax from a disciplines perspective. So at UNISA, you have 5 modules, right? So they break one of the modules into 2. So I was pretty much comfortable with tax, and I'd always been comfortable with accounting as well. And when we wrote our first set of tests, I had prepared as much as I possibly could, because like I said, I had all the resources that I needed, and all I was doing was studying. And so I went and I wrote my first assessments, and when those results came back, I had passed tax comfortably, I had passed my accounting. The issues came in with auditing and management accounting. But with auditing, it was severely bad. But I wasn't concerned, because this was just the first test, and obviously I've got 3 more assessments to go, so it wasn't necessarily a big issue. When I went into my second assessment, I put a little bit more attention on auditing, because obviously the auditing was a problem child. And when my results came back, they were worse than the first test. Now, from an exam entrance perspective, you obviously need to have a specific minimum entrance mark. And at that point in time, I knew that my auditing marks were not on par. And also, just for context, if you are watching this and you are not on a CA journey, but you're just interested in the story, you need to pass all of your modules in one academic year to qualify for your first board exam, which is now the IAC. Previously, it was the ITC. So it didn't matter, it wouldn't have mattered at least, had I passed the other modules comfortably and then maybe in the following year repeated my auditing, because if I'm not passing it in one academic year, then I'm not going to qualify for my board exams. So I knew that I needed to re-strategize and make a plan with auditing. So I reached out to my mentor. I decided, okay, let me reach out to him and sort of tell him that I'm not doing too well with regards to auditing, and it's starting to be an issue. We jumped on a call. It was over 2 hours long, and he was just sort of giving me techniques and how to approach the specific module. I took all of that advice to heart and I applied it in me studying now for my third assessment. And I went into my third assessment, I wrote all of my tests, and I passed auditing with flying colors. I really, really did well in that third assessment. So now I'm feeling more confident and I'm feeling more excited because I can see the CTA dream coming together. There's still a twist in the story. Yeah, there is still a twist coming in the story. In any event, I write my fourth test and I pass again. And now I have secured exam entrance for all of my modules, which was my main thing. I needed to make sure that I'm in all of these exams. Now, the challenging part came in where you are writing all of your assessments very closely to one another. I think it was all in 1 week. So I decided to gamble. I knew that I'm comfortable with tax, and my year mark, well, my entrance mark for my exam was decent. So I decided there were certain modules I was not either gonna study at all for, or I was gonna study very minimally for, because I wanted to prioritize my weak spots. So I decided I was going to make sure that I do everything to pass auditing, and I'm going to do everything to pass management accounting. And accounting and financial accounting and tax were going to take a bit of a backseat, and that's what I did. I wrote my exams and then I went home and I was waiting for my exams. Home as in I went back to MTATA, and when my exam results came out, I passed auditing. I got a supplementary for my financial accounting, which made sense because I knew that I had not studied adequately enough, but I wasn't panicking about getting a supplementary for this specific module because I knew that it's a module that if I study well enough, I can work my way around passing. My results for tax came back and I failed. Flat out. There was no supplementary. I just completely failed taxation. And this was such a blow to my ego because I had never failed this module throughout my CTA year. So now to go and fail at the end, it was very, very difficult to digest. And also, from a monetary perspective, it meant that I need to repeat not just tax, but I need to repeat all of these specific modules because, like I said, you can't pass your modules piecemeal if you want to sit for your first qualifying exam. And my family also couldn't understand, out of all the modules that you didn't pass, how is it possible that you are not passing this tax that you would always say you're comfortable in? So because I was so distraught, I decided that I was going to go back to East London and throw myself a bit of a pity party. But that pity party didn't last too long because for some reason I decided that I wanted to write my supplementary exams. So I had 2 supplementary exams and I had failed tax. So I decided I was going to write these 2 supplementary exams, which was futile when I thought about it. And the reason why it would have been futile is because I still need to repeat these specific modules in any event. But I didn't want to be Decembering, having a good time. I just wasn't in the mood. So I thought I might as well prepare for the next academic year and carry on and go on and write these supplementary exams. And I went back into my study routine. I would wake up, I would, have something to eat. I would take a bath or whatever the case may be, get dressed, get ready, and I'd be at my study desk. And I was studying as though there was a reason, like a sensible reason to study. And one day, as I was studying, my supplementaries, if I'm studying this specific week, my supplementary exams were going to be the next week. And there was communication that came out from the institution, and they said that if you have failed one module and you have other supplementary exams, whatever the case may be, but if you failed one module, you are going to be able to sit for that specific supplementary exam. In other words, they made a concession to say that we're going to convert one of your failed modules into a supplementary. And that immediately meant that I was now in a position to write my exams and actually pass in this one specific academic year. And because I had been studying already for my 2 supplementary exams, which would have been the following week, I decided, okay, this is my chance. So there were two supplementary dates, if I could put it that way. There was the supplementary dates which would fall into the next week, and then the week after that. I just can't remember exactly when we would be writing. But you could choose. You could choose if you want to write in the next week, or you could choose if you would write later down the line. That for me, I didn't want to compress all of my exams into 1 week. I didn't want to write 3 modules in 1 week, and I had prepared in any event for the two. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna write the next week, and I'm going to give myself all the time in the world to study for tax. I wrote that following week, and then I had to come up to Joburg because I was going to be starting my articles in the next month. And then I needed to prepare for tax. I think I had about a week to prepare for that specific exam. And I studied like crazy. I couldn't even sleep properly. I would wake up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. I am thinking taxation. And I wanted to give this exam my all because obviously it was, and I don't know if this concession had ever been done before by UNISA, but it seemed pretty unprecedented. And this is basically my chance. So I went on and I wrote my tax exam, and I felt pretty confident. And then I started my articles, and then my results came out during the course of the beginning of the year. And when my results came out, I had passed everything. I passed financial accounting, I passed both of my supplementary exams, I passed taxation, and obviously I had passed the other two modules that had given me grief earlier in the journey. And and then I graduated in May. But a lot of people don't know this part of my story. And the reason why I wanted to share it is because some people who I had, let's say they were my study partners to a degree, they also were in a position where they could write a module that they had failed because of the concession and write whatever their outstanding supplementaries were. But because they weren't studying during December, people had decided, okay, I failed a module, I'm going to have to repeat everything in any event. There's no point. Oyanga's wasting her time. Let's just pick it up next year. They weren't really able to pass because there was too much pressure in a condensed period of time. And I don't blame them, obviously, because no one saw that coming, not even myself. I just decided that I wanted to prepare for the next academic year by writing my supplementary exams. So, all of this really to say that it is never over until it's over. And you never know um, what God's plan is. For me, in that specific year, I actually even remember before I went back to East London to study, I had a dream of me graduating. And I thought this is such a strange dream because I'm obviously not going to be graduating because I failed tax. But that dream eventually came true. So God is always in the midst of our circumstances, He's always there. And if you are in a position where you feel as though your situation is hopeless, I mean, I've personally never seen that type of a concession before, but it happened in that specific year when I needed it to happen. But preparation also goes a long way. Had I given up and thought to myself that there's no point in doing this, in studying for these supplementary exams, I probably would have not passed tax because I would have felt too much pressure to prepare for all of these exams. So you need to always keep the faith when you are journeying to qualifying as a CA. You need to always make sure that even when it seems hopeless, you just never know when your moment is going to come. And I always think back on that time in my life, and I always think, the extreme amount of resilience that I needed to have to not throw in the towel after the second result came in for my auditing test where I didn't pass again. Because a lot of people get discouraged and they think to themselves that I'm not going to pass this module in any event, or they don't re-strategize and they don't try something new. If something is not working, had I continued to study auditing the way that I was studying for it in test one and test two, I probably would have never passed. But I decided to change my strategy and think about what is it that I'm not getting right. And at the end of that, the irony was that the module I struggled with in the beginning was the one that I passed the first time around when I wrote the exam. And the one module that I never failed throughout the year was the one that I went and failed at the end of the year, even though I ultimately ended up passing it. But you just need to always um, honor every single module and make sure that you're giving it your all. So I hope this video has not been too long, but I hope that it has added some color to what a journey can look like in the background, and so that people don't just hear, oh, I passed CTA on my first attempt. There's such a story behind that, and I hope that it gives you a lot of encouragement to keep going, whatever it is that you might be busy with and whatever it is that might be in your hands and you are looking at achieving. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you did and you stayed until this point, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next one.